screencast is about el imperfecto, which is another way to talk about the past, versus pretérito, which we've been studying. So imperfecto is used to talk about situations in the past that are repetitive or habitual. Something that you used to do, you did usually, often. So we often use used to in English for this tense, but not exclusively. Possibly this is something that was done every day, todos los días, every Monday, month, every morning, something habitual. So for example, cada día yo me levantaba a las 8 para ir a la escuela. Notice that aba on the end, that's one of the endings that you'll see later is how to form el imperfecto. So every day, each day, I used to wake up at 8 o'clock to go to school. Los domingos tú visitabas a tu abuela. On Mondays you visited your grandmother. Something that was habitual. Vosotros bailabais todos los sábados por la noche. You guys danced every Saturday in the evening. So another way to look at imperfecto is to narrate or describe an event or a story without focusing on the beginning, the end, or the completion. It's just used like background or el fondo. So to set up a story, perhaps. Here's an example. Cuando yo era niño, yo tenía un triciclo rojo y tú tenías uno azul. When I was a kid, I used to have a red tricycle and you had a blue one. So we don't know exactly the time period this took place. It's just in general in the past. When Lola was young, cuando era joven, vivía en España. Cada día iba a la universidad y montaba el autobús. When Lola was young, she lived in Spain. Every day she would go to university and ride the bus. Again, it's something that was habitual. We don't know when it began or ended. So here are the conjugations of AR verbs. You may have already noticed some patterns. AR verbs end in aba. Yo ends in aba. And then the rest of the forms, abas, aba, abamos, abais, y aban. Notice the accent on the nosotros form, very important. It affects the way you pronounce it. Abamos, like jugábamos. Conjugations for ER and IR verbs. Ia, ias, ia, íamos, iais, ian. So, of course, you take the root of the verb and end with these. And all of these forms have an accent. Now, careful, atención. The conjugations in the first and third forms are equal. So if it's necessary, you might need to specify with a pronoun. So if we go back and you notice that the yo form and the usted, el, ella form both end in ia. So you might need to distinguish between the two by including yo or el or Lola, and same with AR verbs, aba and aba. So also notice that in the AR, only nosotros carries an accent, habamos, and all of the forms of ER and IR verbs carry an accent on the I. Now, one unique case is the verb I, which means there is, there are. In the imperfect, it's había, which is there was, there were, there used to be. Now, good news, irregulares, there are only 3. Hay solamente 3. Ir, ser, y ver. Here are the forms of ir. Iba, ibas, iba, íbamos, ibais, iban. Kind of strange, I know. There they are. For ser, era, eras, era, éramos, erais, eran. For ver, kind of what you may think, but you have to keep that E on there. Veía, veías, veía, veíamos, veíais, veían. Now with imperfecto, there are a few cases in which you only use imperfecto and never pretérito when you talk about la hora, the hour or time, when you talk about age, la edad, cuántos años tenía, and also when you talk about climate or weather, what was the weather like, qué tiempo hacía. So some examples of that. ¿Qué hora era cuando fuiste al cine? What time was it when you went to the movies? Eran las 2 de la tarde. Now, even though going to the movies is a specific event that we would use pretérito, when we kind of set the stage with the time, we use era, which is the imperfect. Recibió la bici cuando tenía 4 años. So here we're talking about someone who received a bicycle when he was 4 years old or she was 4 years old. Again, receiving the bicycle is pretérito because it's a specific moment, but the age is always imperfecto, tenía. So here's some práctica. I encourage you to pause the screencast and see if you can write down the verbs that you think would go on the lines, and then I will continue with the correct answers. So here they are. Cuando yo era niño, siempre jugaba a los indios y vaqueros con mis amigos. When I was a child, I always played Indians and cowboys with my friends. Siempre jugábamos, don't forget the accent, en el parque que estaba al lado de nuestra casa. Oops, I made a mistake there. Forget the del. So we always played at the park that was next to our house. Me gustaba mucho jugar, pero me encantaba mucho más cuando era indio. I liked to play, but I loved it even more when I was an Indian. Siempre pretendía ser el jefe de los indios. I always pretended to be the boss of the Indians. Mi nombre era Toro Sentado. My name was Sitting Bull. So hopefully you did okay on those. Mostly yo forms there. Some important words, palabras útiles, to use with imperfecto. I encourage you to write down this list. Generalmente y por lo general means generally, usually. Muchas veces, a menudo, both mean often or many times. De vez en cuando means from time to time. A veces, todos los días, you know those. Cada día, each day. Nunca, never. Mientras is when we talk about two actions taking place simultaneously, which would be while in English, while. So yo escribía mientras ella leía. I would write while she would read. Maybe you're describing how something used to be or a situation in the past. So don't forget, when you see these words, you will always be using imperfecto to describe the past. Adiós.